an idea of how many to come. And we're looking forward to that. Well, I'm looking forward this morning to hearing from the new head football coach at Jasper High School, Bryan Moore. I heard him speak several weeks ago on this idea of what is my purpose. And I thought it fit perfectly into our series that we're doing. We're answering questions that you have. I'm often asked, Alan, I would love to know what my purpose is in life. I'm struggling to try to figure out that purpose game, and I think he's going to share some word with you this morning straight from the Word of God. And then there's going to be a way that we can reach into our community yet again. One of the great strengths of this church is that we pour into our community in so many different ways. And we're going to give you another opportunity to do that this morning, and all tied into what he has to say. So let me say this from a personal standpoint. From having a child grow up in an athletic department at a high school, y'all just don't know how fortunate we are to have a solid Christ follower as our head football coach. I almost get, I just get emotional thinking about it, just because Lori and I, from raising a child as an athlete in high school, just how important that is. And we're fortunate. I want to say that God led the exact person to be our head football coach. And so I want to introduce Bryan Moore to you. His wife Lindsay is with him. Come on, Bryan, you can come on up. And I kind of got a feel kind of late in the week of how influential this man is. Now, he's really young. He's not even half my age almost. But anyway, how much influence he's had, because when we started publicizing it, I mean, the online desire for people to watch from all the places where he's lived has been incredible. We've just gotten that word out, and it's going to be good. So, Bryan, you come on and share the Word of God with us, and thank you for coming, and blessings on you. We're praying for you.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Good morning. So it's funny. This morning was kind of like pregame, right? So this morning I get up early, and I'm reading through 1st and 2nd Samuel, and I'm trying to get an idea of what I want to say, because this is a first for me. Okay, speaking in front of a church is totally different than having a whiteboard, because if anything breaks down in my talk in football or in football clinics, I just start drawing. You know what I mean? And people start asking questions, and I don't have that. So it's funny. So I was sitting there, and I was reading through, and this morning, my middle son, Baker, comes down the stairs, and so I'm like locked in. I don't even see him. And you know how kids do? He gets right here, and he's looking at me, staring at me like he does in the middle of the night, and he says, "Dad, is lava in real life?" Okay? And that was the first question, followed by, what is the softest bug? So I said, well, this is not that big of a deal. Just settle in right here and enjoy it. So I think that was God's way of taking the edge off from me. So, I'm dead in the middle of it, and those were the two questions I got. So anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about this program that we have, followed by, I am going to give you a message. Now, I am a lay person. I am, not trained in any way, which is unique for me. Honestly, I've had the most nerves about this out of any speech I've given. I was in Tunica, Mississippi one time, and I was speaking to a group of 800 people, and this is far more than that. I mean, just it's crazy, because I was speaking about something that was easy for me, that I've spent my whole life doing. And then I thought, well, I've spent my whole life doing this too, right? So I thought this would be something that would stretch me. So the Tuesday morning prayer breakfast that I spoke at, right when it was over, it was about 15 to 20 minutes, and it was a smaller group, and I was okay, and that sort of thing, and I talked about our program that we have. And then afterwards, Alan came up to me, and he said, and I kind of thought he was joking at the beginning. He said, maybe you should speak to our church service. I was like, maybe I'll get like 5 minutes, at the end of it. And he says, no, I want you to go 20, 25 minutes, talk to both services. And I thought, wow, well, maybe in the next couple of weeks he'll kind of forget about it, and we'll just kind of let this thing go. And that's not what happened. He said, he calls and, we go to lunch and talk about what we're going to say and everything. And so anyway, it's something that I know, our greatest growth is through discomfort. It is. Our greatest growth is through things that we're not comfortable with, that we're getting out there and stretching ourselves. And so this is certainly a stretch for me. So what I'm going to talk about this morning prior to getting into what is my purpose, because I think every person in this room has purpose in life. I think that God put us here. I tell my players, and the cool thing is, I get to practice on my players, right? So like I've already done this a couple of times to my kids. And so, God made each person in this room different. We don't look the same. We don't talk the same. And for me, honestly, it's difficult to fathom that He's able to make all of us different. I mean, I have a hard time comprehending that none of us are the same. Even our spouse, even our children, all three of my children are different. They look different, to me. They act different. And so it's amazing to me what God puts on us and how He makes us different. So with that being said, we all, though, have a purpose. Like, we're here for a reason. And it's our job to seize that purpose or not, plain and simple. Either we go do it, because all of us feel it. You feel what God put you here to do, and it's your job to run to it, and to not be afraid of it. Because sometimes, as we know, our purpose in life is difficult. It's the tough road, as they say. It's the difficult thing to do, but we all know somewhere down the line that we've been pulled in a direction, and we all also have turned away from that direction at times. We've not seized the moment, just like me. And I thought I had to seize this moment, right? An opportunity to speak to people and seize this moment because God put it on my heart to do it. And He put a man in my life to help me do that. So the evolution of the program that we're going to talk about today started, my wife Lindsay's here, really as her idea. So what we did, we were in a school that was very diverse. We had some real needs, socioeconomic issues and some poverty there where we were, just like here. And so we started this program called Adopt a Viking. And that program basically takes young men. In our football program, we have about 120, junior high and high school. It takes those young men and the ones that we see issues because, I tell my coaches, we're kind of like the troops on the ground, just like the church. You know what I mean? Like, we're in there. We're in there. We ride and get those kids in the morning, and we make sure they're at workouts at 6:30 a.m., and we make sure they have something to eat when they need it, just like many of you do. And so we see the inside of their lives, and it's our job to affect their lives. And so this program started as a mentorship in which we tied a player on our football team to a community member that was willing, and that community member could take that relationship and make it as big or as small as they wanted to. The minimum part was a letter from the kid to the mentor that would tell a little bit about their lives. And then after that, I sort of set up the meeting, and I just let those mentors run. And some of those mentors took that program and just blew it out of the water. I'm going to tell a story at the end, and I'm going to get to the message about a kid that spends Christmas with his mentors. All the way, that depth of that relationship that they know that, at midnight, those folks have been at that kid's house trying to fix whatever problem was inside those walls. So we'll talk about that a little bit. The story that I'm going to tell this morning is the story of David. We're going to talk about David this morning. And as I was thinking about David, I've been in athletics all my life from the time I was 4 years old, playing every sport that I could. That's just what I love to do. I didn't do a lot of hunting and fishing. I just played sports. And that's what I cared about. That's what my passion was. I grew up in a neighborhood that had like 14 boys in it, and I was the youngest of all those boys, so, I had to grow up quick. And we played and did things, and that's what I hope for my kids. I hope that they'll get in there. And so as I was thinking about the story of David this morning, the first one that pops off the charts as an athlete is David and Goliath, right? I mean, at some point, if you played sports, you probably were sitting in a locker room and somebody was telling the story of David and Goliath. Well, the problem I have with that is I was David too much. You know what I mean? Like, we were the underdogs a lot. And so I remember a story. So I'm an 8th grader, and we're in a junior high basketball. I just made the team. And I'm a little nervous. We're playing a crosstown rival as our first game, and I have no idea how good our team's going to be. I just don't know. And I'm sitting in that locker room, and so our coach comes in. He's a first-year coach. And sure enough, he opens up Samuel, 1 Samuel, and he starts telling the story of David and Goliath. And so my wheels, I've always been pretty analytical, so my wheels start turning, and I go, hang on now. Like, what are we fixing to walk out here and see? Like, is this the team of giants that we're getting ready to play right here? Okay? He followed that, David and Goliath's story, with Rocky 1. If you've ever seen Rocky 1, it's Sylvester Stallone, and he loses. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking, kind of, where's this thing going? And sure enough, we run out of the locker room, and it was definitely Goliath on the other side. And unfortunately, I didn't have a stone to throw. You know what I mean? So that didn't go that well. So anyway, but when I looked at David, you know, I started to think about a purpose-driven life for David, but it's not perfect. And I think that's what made sense to me, is that the story of David is not a perfect story. You know, David had his faults. David had his issues, but at the same time, most of the time, David listened to what God told him to do. He was purpose-driven in his life, just like with the giant that stood there, and then he throws the stone, knowing that God would protect him and put a hedge of protection around him. But at the same time, David made mistakes. Bathsheba and the things that we all know through the stories, and also with his children and all that kind of stuff, as I went through, his life was a roller coaster. It really was. And so I thought, you know, that gives me hope. You know, and really the scripture that I'm going to talk about is Acts 13:36. It really doesn't come from 1 Samuel, but it says this: for when David had served God's purpose in his own generation, he fell asleep. He was buried in his fathers, and his body decayed. You know, and there's a little part there that I don't really want to chase. It gets me off subject just a little bit. But then the very next verse talks about the risen one did not decay, right? So my point in saying that, as I read that, and what I perceive, my perception of that story is that because we're human, we're going to make mistakes. There are going to be things, and our body's going to decay. You know, there's only been one that was perfect, and there'll never be another one. You know, and that's where I get hope, because of all the mistakes that I've made in my life. Because, again, my life has not been perfect. My life has not been always a church-driven life. My life has been up and down. And so that's kind of where I wanted to talk today, is about David. I'll continue to relate him to this purpose-driven life. And I am going to talk to you a little bit about tasks that I think we need to fulfill, and then hopefully not having any confusion about what our purpose is, okay? So I think God gives us purpose in life regardless of our circumstance. I talk to our players about that. It doesn't matter where you come from, the mistakes you've made, the situation you're growing up in. Because honestly, if you were to come to a football game and you were to see my 80 kids run out there on Friday night, and they look good, you know, and they've got new cleats and new jerseys, and, you know, and we worked on that field and painted it up and everything, and it's this shiny looking thing, right? But inside of that are all these issues that we had to fight. They have to fight on a daily basis to get to that point, to reach that level. Because listen, when they run out there on August the 23rd against Coleman, okay, they're going to have gone through things and been expected of things that they've had to fight for. Okay, they've had to fight those scoffers in their life and those things in their life that are trying to hold them back, those imposters to their success. They have more than you ever imagined growing up. And some of you may have grown up in that situation, but that's where we're at. Once they run out there, you'll know this on August 23rd, that they have committed to what it is that we want to do, and they have conformed to the program and the standards that we have within our program. And like I said, you know, they're not perfect, just like David, just like me, just like you. They're not perfect, but they're doing things to move in the right direction like we should. We're never a finished product. We should always be growing and sharpening ourselves. I heard a man say that you need to knock off the rough edges, right? That's kind of where we're at. And that's kind of what this morning is helping me do, is knock off my rough edges as well. So again, we'll all fall short of the glory of God, just like David did, okay, just like his situations, okay? But again, in him we can find hope, because, again, he fulfilled his purpose for God. It says it in Acts 13:36. The second thing I'm going to talk to you about, past David, okay, is a foundation for your life. Probably every person in this room has heard Matthew 7:24, okay, that talks about where I build my house, right? I build my house on the rock and not on the sand. And that's kind of where I'm at with teenagers, you know, because our foundation, okay, is what our purpose is formed from, right? Like God sets our foundation, and then we take that and make it our purpose in life, which ultimately, and I'm going to get a little bit heady here, but also sets our perspective on the way that we perceive things that are taking place in life. Okay? So our foundation is set on Matthew 7:24, on Jesus Christ. Our purpose is from that, right? What we are here to do, and then the perception that we have of things in our life, our community, our kids, is all based on the purpose that God has for us. Okay? And so that's where we're at with it. You know, and it says the foolish man builds it on the sand, but the wise man builds it on the rock. We all know that. Okay? Our foundation has to be in Jesus Christ. And again, sometimes we're going to fall short. So that gives, as I said, that gives me the comfort that even though my foundation is there, at times I will fall short of what it is that God would have me do. The next thing, and I've got a little example here I thought was really interesting. And, you know, with our purpose that's built on our foundation, okay, we have two things in our life. And this was kind of the basis of what I spoke to the men's prayer group about was, you know, we have purpose in life and then we have goals in life. And I think those two things are very different, okay? I think that goals are real result-driven, money-driven, success-driven things. I think you have goals like having a great job, having a nice house, having nice cars, making good money, all that stuff. I think those are goals, okay? And I think that all too often, especially in athletics, okay, we miss the boat, miss the mark, okay, on fulfilling our purpose within that because we get so driven on our career, okay? And I told the guys this that morning. You know, for me, my career is based on real results. I'm in a result-driven career, like unlike any other. You know, you can see whether or not our program is successful. You'll see that in November of next year, December. You'll know, were we successful this year, goal-wise? You'll see that, okay? And so, again, sometimes in the coaching profession, we go to coaching clinics. I'll go to one in Montgomery. And in coaching itself, the divorce rate is higher than just the normal divorce rate. And the reason is because those real results, right, drive men to do crazy things, to work foolish hours, okay, to do crazy stuff because of the stress level of the job, okay? And we have to fight to keep that from happening. And again, that's based on the fact that they're driven by being ambitious about these goals or wins and losses, or chasing the next job because I make more money there, or going into the college game because I can make more money there, but yet I don't see my children, right? Those are what they're driven by, and we have to be careful of that. And it says this, and then I'm going to give you an example. In 1 Corinthians 9:24, it's run the race, right? We all run the race to win the prize. Yet, what is the prize? Okay, what is success for people, especially in coaching, in some type of job? What is success? Is it money? You know, is it how many cars I drive, how many houses, how many boats, toys, whatever? Is that real success, or is the prize being close to Jesus Christ? Right? And so that's what I'm going to get to, and I've got a man for you that every person in here knows, okay? And I want to talk about him. I've got 5 feats of Tiger Woods. You ready for these? These are the most unbelievably dominant things in athletics that I've ever seen. That includes Michael Jordan. That includes Tom Brady. That includes every person. So listen to these 5. These are Tiger Woods from his early career, and then 2009 where that door slammed, right, on Tiger, where he was foolish in what he was chasing. So listen to these. Number 1, from 1999 to 2003, Tiger won 32 times on the PGA Tour. No other player won more than 8 times in that period. Number 2, Tiger was a combined 53 under, you golfers in here, 53 under in majors in the year 2000 alone. In 1 year, there's 4 majors. He was 53 under, okay? That was 35 shots better than any other person. 35 shots. In golf, that's a lot. It's a lot of strokes. Tiger has won 9 USGA championships in his career, tied with Bobby Jones for the most all time. He won the 2000 Open. This is unbelievable. This one to me is my biggest. He won the 2000 Open by 15 strokes. He won a tournament by 15 strokes. Professional golf. Everybody else is a pro. He's winning it like that. Okay, number 4, Tiger is 16-1. Now, talking about a closer, and you think mentally this guy's got it together in playoffs. So when he ties at the end of the tournament and they play one more hole, he's 16-1. Think about that now. Closer, finisher, 16-1. That's where he's at. And then last one, this is crazy to me. Most of these came after 2009. Tiger has missed 15 cuts in the PGA Tour as a professional. Most of you know who Jordan Spieth is. Okay? Jordan Spieth has missed 14 in his 4 years on the tour. Okay? Tiger spent 10-plus years, missed 15 total cuts. At one point, he had only missed 1 cut in like 5 years. That's unbelievable. Again, maybe everybody's not a golfer, but the things that I just put out there are unbelievable. But I'm going to tell you, reading some stuff about him, the death of his father in 2006, okay, and then what craziness that took place in 2009 because of his issues, okay, with his wife, cost him everything, right? Because he confused purpose with his goals, right? His goal became his purpose, and that's a major issue. It talks about Tiger would invite women to his house, and he would just sit there and talk to them all night long because of his emptiness. He was searching for something, but he was finding it in the wrong places, right? And he never, and I don't know where he's at today with all that, and I don't pretend to know him or anything, but I just know the stats are, okay, that this man, up until this point, was on top of the world, and then all of a sudden that came crashing down. And I think for us, the moral of that story for me is that if we don't get it right, okay, if we don't get it right and change our perspective and move it towards purpose, then we're going to fall and suffer that same fate. So the big thing for me, okay, is as we get through this, okay, is our purpose is important. And I'm going to tell you this. This is really big for me. And sort of to finish right here, what I want for us as a community, and I think my purpose that God put me here to do, okay, is found right here. It's in Matthew 18:12 through 14. It says this: what do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills? And we sing the song about that, right? It's probably my favorite one that we sing, on the hills, and go look for the one that wandered off. And if he finds it, I tell you the truth, he is happier about the one sheep than the other 99, right? Is that not where we are? And are we chasing the one? Are we giving up on the one? Are we writing people off based on their circumstances in our community? Because I'm going to tell you this. If we write them off and we don't go get the one that's astray, okay, it'll come back and hurt our community in the long run, right? So that's where I'm at with that is I have kids, and they're good kids, okay? All my kids are good kids. My players are good ones. But they lose sight. They don't have that foundation sometimes. Most of them do. I'm not speaking to the majority here. Most of them do. Most of them here, come from solid homes, right? A lot of them two-parent homes, good folks, church-going people, okay? But we can't, as a community, this is my call, okay? As a community, we can't let the one go astray. We've got to go get that one and bring it back. And I think it's not just football. So they say that sports save people, football saves people. I don't really believe that. I think the relationships within those is what saves people, right? My relationship with them because I can see the inner workings of their home, right? And I won't get into examples, but there have been many calls and needs and things. And you know what? I've been able to reach out to people in this community along with my staff, and we've been able to fill those, okay? But we're at a point right now where, as a whole, we've got to find a way as a community to reach those kids. And I think this program can do that for us, okay? And so to finish today, I want to give you this, okay? I want to tell a story real quick of the Adopt a Viking program and kind of how this can change people. I mentioned earlier that we had the kid that spends Christmas, so I came to interview here, and I interviewed in front of like 20 people. It was the craziest interview, okay? It was really wild. And so I'm up like this, and I'm speaking to a group. They didn't ask me questions. It was present yourself and like win the job, right? Like go win the job. You want the job, go get it. And so I got up there, and it was funny because I could sense the people wanted me to talk football. But for the first, the interview was 90 minutes. I had 90 minutes, okay? And so for the first hour, I talked about this, okay? And I could sense that they were like, well, does he know anything about football? Like, can he, can he call a play? You know what I mean? Like, well, it's just, whatever. And so I got to that point, but I just said, look, man, if we don't do this up front, we're going to suffer the fate of Tiger Woods. Our program may be shiny and new, and we may win in the short term, or we may come here and, call a bunch of good plays and score 40 points a game or whatever, and that'd be awesome, okay? But what we've got to do as a community and as a coaching staff and as a group is to fulfill this that God would have us do, okay? And so the story that I'll tell real quick and finish with this is there was a kid, and I won't mention his name, but he's from Eufaula, and this kid, it was so funny. I had a connection with him when I got there. Like my first spring, he was a ninth grader. I knew he was really special. He came to one practice, knocks a guy out cold in the practice, okay, and then never shows up again. All right, so I'm like seeking this guy out, right? Like I don't know a lot of the kids. I'd only been there a few weeks, and I'm trying to figure him out. And I'm like, who is this guy? Does he really even exist, or did I dream this? And so I find this kid. I go to Parker's T-ball game, my oldest. And sure enough, he's sitting in the stands. It's spring. And I said, tomorrow morning you have your tailgate football practice, right? This is summer by this point. And sure enough, he comes, and we helped his mom. We started this program. He got involved in the program. Our youth pastor at the church took him, okay? And the story goes like this. So I get him through his sophomore year, and I had to kick him off the football team. He got in some trouble. And it was one of those deals where if you hurt the team, I got to let you go, right? Like you hurting you, I can work with you. But when you hurt the other guys, I got to let you go. That does happen. But what the coolest thing, and I'll never forget this, I'm on my way. We're on vacation. We're on the way to the mountains. And I call his mentor, our youth pastor, and I said, hey, I just had to let him go. Just wanted you to know. And I said, and this is me now, talking about goals and purpose. I said, I'll get you another guy. I'm sorry about what happened. I'll get you another. He goes, Coach, I don't want another guy. He said, we don't love him just because he plays football, right? We love him because he's a kid, and we want to take care of him. And I'll never forget that. I thought that was one of the coolest things that I had ever heard. And in the end, because of those people, he's back on the football team. He's a college player. He was an all-state player this past year. I let him back on the team. He had to fulfill his duties to get back, and then I let him back. And I said, because I see what you're doing and the changes that are in your life, then I'll let you back. And that's what this program's about. This program's not about winning a bunch of football games, because I think when we do these things and we fulfill our purpose in life, that we'll naturally do that. That will happen for us here, okay? And so that's what we want. This program, Alan's going to come up and talk about it a little bit more, but that's what this is about. We want mentors. We have 120 kids in our program. Okay, we had 60 kids that were able to pay for their spirit packs this year. So that means 60 could not. We have 13 people that have committed to the program. My goal in the end is that all 120 kids, regardless of their home and their circumstance, will have a mentor in their life, because I believe that the more bricks we put in the foundation, the better those kids are going to be. And I just think that the more, it doesn't matter, man. I had people in my life outside. I have a 2-parent home, great parents, okay? But there were people that poured into me outside of my home that made me get here today. And I just hope that we'll get involved as a community and not let the one go astray.
Awesome. Okay, so let's just be very clear. There's kind of two components to, well, there's three. Most importantly, let's hear what he shared about purpose. Let's live into that and what we can all do. But beyond that, this program has a mentor piece and it has a financial piece. And what God laid on my heart when I heard him, and very quickly, and then I heard that, in junior high and senior, in high school in Jasper, and this may shock you, okay? Because I was telling this story to a friend of mine in another city, and he said, really, Jasper is like that? He's got 120 players, and half of them, their family could not make $150 happen to buy the Spirit Pack. Now, what the Spirit Pack does, it creates identity to the football players so that they're quickly identified as a football player, as a high school football player in Jasper. And so what God laid on my heart, let's just see if we can take this off his plate. He doesn't need to worry about, does he have a football player that is going to be talked about because he doesn't show up, as a part of the team and looking like everybody else. You know how football teams do when they get off the bus, they all look exactly alike, whatever it is. So I just want to take that off his plate. And so he got 47 kids, essentially, now that haven't been committed. And I think before the day is over that we can sponsor those 47 kids. Now I put cards out all over, and it's a little bit deceiving. It's a little bit misleading because it basically says, can you mentor and sponsor a child, or can you sponsor a child? And then we had them all printed, we had them all laid out, and then yesterday afternoon I thought, wait a minute, I left out an important piece, and I understand that there's some of you here that cannot and don't want to do $150. You can do any amount you want to do. If $25 is comfortable with you, if $10 is comfortable with you, or if you want to do two, that's perfectly welcome. You can do any amount you want to. So on your card, the line that says anonymous donation, it should have said $150 or any other amount as well. So you can do any amount. So I just think that there may be some people here that God has laid on your heart that you want to connect to a football player and be a mentor. And like Bryan said, it can be anything from just a phone call a month, just a note occasionally, or it can go as deep as you want to take it. I mean, just let the Lord lead that. Just let the Lord lead that. But we want to connect people if you're willing, as well as the financial piece. So what we want to do is, we want to give you instantaneous response. So he's meeting with mentors and all that on July the 12th. On July the 12th. So we want to get this knocked out by July the 12th. I think we can knock it out today. I think 47 of us can say, collectively we can say, we'll make 47 happen for him. And let's just take that off his plate. Look, I want him to spend his time developing relationships and living into kids' lives. I don't want him have to spend his time. How long have you been in Jasper now? 5 months. 5 months into living here, having to worry about raising money so that his kids can look, like the Jasper High School football team. And I was amazed that half the kids couldn't afford that $150. And my friend I was talking to in another city said, I thought y'all were wealthier than that in Jasper. I said, well, apparently we're not. Apparently we've got some issues going on where people are struggling, families are struggling. So it would probably be best if you're going to write a check today, if you would make it out to First United Methodist Church. If you make it out to Jasper High School, we'll pass it on because that's what, I gave you that option as well. But if you'll make it to First United Methodist Church, then we'll put it in a separate fund and we'll just write you one check. I think that would be easier, unless they're going to mentor as well and you need the other information. We'll give you all that. We'll do the bookkeeping.